So, amidst some legal drama, Journey has released a new live album, live at Lollapalooza. So, this is an interesting album for a few reasons. First of all, the timing. This album was announced before all of this legal nonsense began, but now we are dealing with a very fractured band, lots of uncertainty as to how they're going to continue. I still don't understand how they're going to tour in 2023. Neil insists it's still happening. So despite all of that, we do have Live at Lollapalooza, which was recorded last year, July 31st, 2021, at Lollapalooza in Chicago. So this is an interesting release. We have a unique lineup here. We have, of course, Neil Schon on guitar, Arnel Pineda on vocals, Jonathan Cain on keyboards, Narada Michael Walden on drums, one of his few live performances with Journey, Dean Castronovo also on drums, so we have two drummers here, and then Marco Mendoza on bass, one of his few performances with the band. This is very likely going to be the only release we get from this lineup. So for me, I think that alone makes this very unique and interesting. I love live albums, regardless of how good they are as far as how good the band is. Live albums are fascinating for someone like me who really dives into a band and studies their legacy and their history, because it's a snapshot of a certain time in a band's lifespan. You can really just dive into a live album recorded at different times in a band's career, and you really kind of get a feel for how the band was at that time. And so this is a good representation of that. This was one of Journey's first big live performances after the pandemic. Still during the pandemic, of course, but after they had to shut everything down. And it's not their very first performance after the shutdown. They did a show at the Aragon Ballroom shortly before this, I think a couple days. That show I wish would have gotten a recording, because that show had an incredible set list. But Lollapalooza is a big festival, so it makes sense that Journey wanted to capitalize on their headlining act. But it's very mixed. I watched that performance live on TV. I thought it was terrible when I watched it. I was very, very unimpressed with the performance. I thought it was very bad at first. I went back and rewatched some of it and before this album came out, and some of the songs are pretty good. Arnel does a really good job on some of the tracks. But most of the time, I would say this is one of Arnel's weaker performances with Journey. Arnel's a very strong vocalist. He has been in Journey, touring consistently, longer than any other singer in Journey, actually. I know that we associate Steve Perry with Journey, as we should, but Arnel has been touring in this longest straight stretch out of any Journey vocalist. I'm impressed that the man can sing at all at this point, because it is grueling. We saw what happened with Steve Augeri. Band shredded his vocal cords. But this is not a good outing from Arnel. This is not good. Most of the tracks he struggles badly. Right out of the gate, he is struggling. Separate Ways is the opener, and he does okay, but on Only the Young, it's not very good. He does all right on Stone in Love. He does okay, like a very iffy okay on Be Good to Yourself. But then that's the thing with this performance, is it's so uneven. Arnel does really bad at times, and then he just comes out of nowhere and does really, really good. And that was the case at the actual live stream of the concert. I remember thinking that back then, like, wow, suddenly he can just sing really well. But it seems to be more pronounced here. And obviously I don't have any information, but I do wonder if they went and doctored up some of this. I would think that if they did do that, though, they would have hit some of the really weak spots, and those spots are still pretty weak. I think that this is a very interesting set list. We don't get typically super interesting set lists from live Journey releases. Most of the time they do legacy releases like from the 80s, or like they did, the Live in Houston, or Greatest Hits Live, or Captured, of course. But this one, we have an interesting set list. We do get a lot of the same hits, but notably we get Just the Same Way. It's one of my favorite Greg Rowley and Steve Perry tracks, and of course it's sung by two different people this time. It is with Jonathan Cain and Arnell. I think it's great. Jonathan Cain actually sounds really good on this track. I think typically he's not the greatest vocalist, but he does really good here. Arnell's part is also performed very well. We have Still They Ride, which was a staple. It's been a live staple with the band for a long time. When Dean was in the band before, Dean sang it. Well, Dean is in the band again, but he does not sing here. Arnell does. I think he does pretty good. La Doo Da, 10 minutes long. Really, really epic live performance of that song. Lots of great music from the guys. Good solos. I mean, it's pretty good. I think Who's Crying Now, we see that one at a lot of live shows, but not as many as you would expect. And I think it is done very well here. Ask the Lonely is another one that's a favorite for the band to play. It's pretty good here. I think Arnell struggles a lot on that one, but I think it still comes through pretty good from the band. And then, the rest of the staples that we get at every single show. Any Way You Want It, Faithfully, Don't Stop Believin', Love and Touch and Squeezin', Open Arms, Lights, Be Good to Yourself, Stone in Love, so all that's typical stuff. So yeah, very uneven, I think, is the gist. But the music is really good. The musicianship is phenomenal here. This is some really good playing from Neil. This is really good keyboard playing from Jonathan Cain. His keys are really high in the mix, which I think is good. You can hear them clearly, especially like the intro, Separate Ways. It just comes through so sharp, and it sounds really, really good. The piano bits and Open Arms, Faithfully, Just the Same Way. I mean, it all just works really, really well. It sounds really good. The drums sound great, despite having two drummers. Because having two drummers is not always a good thing. It can cause issues if the drummers aren't playing in sync very well. The drums can come off too heavy-handed sometimes. I think here they work really well. They do sound heavier than they typically would. It's expected, there's two drummers. But they sound good, I think. So, I mean, yeah, this is an interesting release. It's a snapshot of a unique era in the band. We're just coming out of a pandemic. We have a very different lineup than what would actually end up being the lineup. Marco Mendoza did not last. Narada did not last as a live player. So, and this is, in that kind of awkward area before Freedom. So, the Way We Used to Be was released at this point. They chose not to play it here. I understand. But overall, they did an okay job, I think. I think Arnell really, really struggled on this one. And it's a shame because he didn't struggle that way the entire tour that would follow. If you look up footage from the Freedom tour that was done this year in 2022, he sounds pretty good. Neil has addressed this in interviews. He said that they've had a lot of issues with the audio technicians, with the earpieces and the monitors and things, and they've got a lot of that resolved. So it's pretty phenomenal. It's pretty crazy that a band Journey's caliber can somehow have those issues, and especially because their mix on their new album is just atrocious. But Arnell does sound better on the current shows, at least the ones from earlier in 2022. So it's a shame that I think that this is the show they chose to release. I would have loved to have seen a release from just a random show on the Freedom Tour. We could have gotten, You Got the Best of Me, The Way We Used to Be, maybe Let It Rain, live performances. So, but I get it. Lollapalooza is a big deal, so they wanted to capitalize on that. I'll probably end up picking this one up on vinyl. If I do, I will do just a little video showing off the artwork and the disc itself. But, what do you guys think of Live at Lollapalooza? Definitely let me know in the comments. If you haven't, please hit that subscribe. I know we've been away for a little bit. December is a crazy month for everyone, I think. It's an especially crazy month for me. But I'm trying to get back on a more consistent weekly schedule. So next week, I'm going to be talking about Christmas music, not like Mariah Carey, Christmas pop, but Christmas rock music. A lot of bands go Christmas, so I'm going to kind of take a look at that. Figured it'd be fun, and I think I might also try to throw in a review of Steve Perry's Christmas album that he released last year and then re-released this year with some new stuff. And then to round out the year, we will do a best of 2022, just like my top albums for 2022. A lot of it will be stuff that I covered on the channel, but I always like to look back on my year of music and think about it, because I was doing that already, planning the video, and I look back at some music I was into in the beginning of the year. I've already forgotten about it, because that's the nature of the beast. We have access to so much music now. So, you have those videos to look forward to as we look ahead to 2023. So as always, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. We are doing great, almost to 400 subscribers. That's incredible. Never thought I would even break 10. Here we are at almost 400. It's phenomenal. You guys have done a great job supporting all the most recent videos. The Journey stuff always does so well, and I'm very happy about that, because Journey's one of my favorite bands. So I will see you guys at the next video.